Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, analyzing deals.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about analyzing deals today.
So,
if you are brand new,
yeah,
how would you teach this to somebody?
From that perspective.
Absolutely.
I guess the first thing when I'm brand new is the first thing that comes to mind is how much do I offer? I'm overwhelmed. Like, I don't know, what's this property even worth?
What's it worth? How do I know what it will be worth, or how to
Yeah.
comp it? What does that even mean?
I don't even think that really enters my mind is what it will be worth. It's just like, what is it worth to somebody else?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to sell it?
How do I get
What can I sell it for? What should I buy it for?
How do I profit off this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so the first things first, you have to figure out, in my opinion, is what the property will be worth. So almost always,
You got to start with the end in mind.
exactly, almost always in this business, you're going to be buying properties that are distressed in some way. I mean, I would say almost 95% of our deals, Dave, are distressed properties, meaning there's something that needs to be repaired, something that needs to be updated or fixed. I mean, again, there's something is wrong with the house. Could be just landscaping, super overgrown. Could be there's a hole in the roof and there's been water leaking in it for 5 years and it's just destroyed inside.
Yep.
Could be something as simple as it's just outdated. So again, those are the nice ones. We call them like grandma houses, when it just looks like a time capsule from the 1960s. Everything's in good shape, but it's just really old. So again, it's just not it's not going to pull the top value, the top market value. So what you need to do is envision that house in the best possible light.
Yeah, highest and best use, basically.
So what we do is we look at similar properties. They're called comps. So we look at comps that are the nicest properties, or not the nicest, but your kind of top dollar comp. So what could the best possible outcome be for this house? What's the most it could sell for?
Not necessarily the highest, though.
Right.
You know, but like best. So let's say that you got...
This is very important.
Yeah,
It's
because
a very
let's say
important
you got
distinction.
3 houses on the street that have just been rehabbed, and they sell for $290, $295, and $300. Okay, I look at that as, hey, you're pretty safe between $290 and $300. So our ARV is $295. All right, it's a safe bet.
Or after repair value.
It's not
Right.
saying, could I do more than these others and get it to $325? Well, yes. But then what ends up happening is you spend more money to get it there and you lose profits anyway. It's usually not worth it. So, yeah, just stick, keep it simple.
I would say even more complicated than that is what's going to happen in real life.
Right.
You'll see 290, 295, 315, and then one that's at 360.
Right.
And then there's a bunch around like 270, 260s.
Right.
So then you're going to say, well, I think that...
What's the most realistic outcome?
Right. So 360 is possible.
It is.
But
Absolutely possible.
But you're not going to use that as your ARV because, quite frankly, no rehabber is going to come in and say, oh, you're right, one sold for 360. I'm going to go ahead and invest $300,000 in this house. Like, investors are not gamblers. So we want to be confident in our decision that, yes, we can hit, like Dave said, 295. 295 is a number I know I can hit when I invest in this property. So that's kind of how you figure out what the after repair value is. So you have to compare it to the comps. The other thing about comps is you want to make sure you're comparing like properties. So you've got different size square footages in the same area within a half a mile or less. You've got different floor plans, different ages of different condition, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to make sure you're comparing things that are pretty similar, right? I mean, is there something else I'm kind of missing on that, Dave, that's just big and stands out in your head?
Not at all, man.
Yeah, so the size of the house, the lot, and the condition. I mean, those are the 3 things that are going to, they're going to factor into the price of the property.
Yep.
So where do we find similar properties? We When we started, we used to have access to the MLS, or you could ask an agent. So we do that. Another one is Zillow. Now, you're not going to just pull up Zillow and look at the Zestimates. Those are numbers that
Now, you can see the recently solds.
That's where you're going to go in Zillow. Recently solds in Zillow is helpful.
It's not going to have all the data in there, though. It's limited. It's not. I'm not saying that you couldn't use it. You could. However, you always want to see the biggest picture, right? You want to see the most amount of comps and the most amount of data to get the most educated understanding of what it could be. It's always a guess, right? It's a guess because you don't know what it's going to be worth until it sells. But you can get a pretty good educated guess. So yeah, we love using PropStream. It'll comp properties nationwide, which is really cool. And it pulls the same data that our local MLS does and your local MLS does, whatever city you're in, assuming it's U.S., right? So, if you have MLS access and you're an agent or a broker, great. You already have the ability to run comps. We both have access. Mike's actually a broker. I'm neither. However, we both use PropStream to run our comps because it's the same data. It's cleaner to look at, and it's easier to use, and it's all in one place.
What's almost embarrassing because, I am a broker, and Dave, you're very good at running comps too. I like PropStream because it gives you an estimated value that is usually pretty close to the value that we come up with after we look at all the other factors.
Really good.
I don't know how they do
good way of determining it,
or whatever.
Yeah, but it's very close.
Yeah, they're very, very good. So we use PropStream. Check out. Do we have a link on?
Yeah,
here?
it's on the screen.
Okay, cool. The Bitly link. Make sure you know it is case sensitive.
No, it's not.
Bitly links are.
Are they?
Oh yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I'm not a big fan of Bitly links.
I don't think that's the case, man. You sure?
I promise you it's the case.
I did not know that. Well, it's in the description anyway, though.
Yeah,
so
click on the link.
No big deal.
Whatever. So find that, and PropStream, is there like a promo code we can offer?
No, it's just a link.
Just the link.
But the link gives them a 14 or 7-day free trial.
Awesome. So make sure you use that
so
link.
You can get a free trial for
and you can try it out if you want to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So that's basically where you start, though. You find the ARV or determine it by running comps.
Yeah. What's the highest possible? Not the highest possible, but what's the best case?
The best case
that an investor would agree with.
Most agreeable by as many people as possible.
Right. So knock out your top one or two, and you can throw out even your bottom low two. You just
doesn't matter.
You just do.
You're averaging it, and basically, what is it going to be worth after we make these repairs? So you do that by finding comps. Now, Mike said that we're going to find those comps, and then we're going to use those to determine it. But we do want to take a second to talk about comps, right? When we run comps, we're looking for some very specific things, okay? We are looking for recent sales. You cannot pull comps that are 8 years old. That's worthless. You got to look at the recent sales. Also, we are searching by proximity. We don't want a property that's 8 miles away. We are trying to find these comps that are close and they are recently sold. There's a couple other things that we look for, but I don't want to drill down too deep on this because it's not necessary. The only other things essentially that we look for are similar size, similar bed and bath count. You can't compare a 2-bed to an 8-bed. Come on, got to be very similar. And then last but not least would be school district. So square footage, bed and bath count, which really is each of their own, but I cluster them. Yeah. And then last would be the school district.
And school district's something kind of specific here to St. Louis. And again, you're going to have to know your area just by
it just depends.
Networking.
And that's the thing.
There's something.
There could be cities that are worse, right? It's just school districts matter.
It's important here.
Yes.
It is for us. It's very important. So, yeah, you want to look over those school district lines. All right, so we run our comps.
So we find the like properties, guys, to then run our comps.
All right. So what's the next step in analyzing deals?
Okay, so now that we have our ARV, because we ran our comps, and we know, hey, this property fixed up should be worth this amount. Okay? Once we have our ARV, we need to use a simple formula to help us determine the offer. This is called the MAO formula. And the MAO formula is an acronym, or its initials, for maximum allowable offer.
That's what an acronym is, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I
think so.
Acronym is
that makes
the initials.
sense.
I'm like 90%. I say it all the time, so hopefully that's right.
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
Acronym. An
Brrrr.
abbreviation formed from the initial letters of other words.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's an
Maximum
acronym, baby.
Allowable offer is an acronym.
That's right.
We got it.
Learning here as we go. That's right. So we're going to use this simple formula to determine the maximum amount that we're going to offer. Now, we're typically not going to offer that amount. We're going to offer lower because the first word in that equation is maximum, and we don't really want to offer that right out the gate. We maybe want to offer that later or have wiggle room to get to that number. But in the beginning, we're going to offer less. So what does the MAO formula look like? Well, I'm going to spell it out. MAO equals your ARV multiplied by your discount rate minus your repairs and minus a wholesale fee if, in fact, you're wholesaling. So MAO equals maximum allowable offer. That's equal to the ARV, or the after repair value, which you get from your comps, multiplied by a discount rate, which is typically going to be around 70%. Now, it varies a little bit, and we'll get into that. But for sake of simplicity and conversation, we're going to call that 70%. And then we're going to take out our repairs and then a wholesale fee if we are wholesaling. So in order to use this MAO formula, this maximum allowable offer formula, you need a couple variables. You need to have your ARV, which hopefully you start with. And you do so you determine that number by running comps and finding similar recent solds that are very, very similar. Similar bed, similar bath, within 100 or 200 square foot, on the street or a street over, but very close. And that's going to be your ARV. Next, you're going to have or multiply that by a discount rate. We always default to 70 or 0.7%, 70%. However, it's a sliding scale, and it can go down to as low as 10%, and it typically doesn't go higher than 80%, though. There may be sometimes when it does, but very, very rarely. Typically, though, we look at it like, 60, 70, or 80, or even 75, somewhere in that range. But 70 is a good default to start, okay? We're going to leave it at that for simplicity. And then next, you're going to subtract out your repairs and your wholesale fee. So we're going to talk about the wholesale fee last, but the repairs is a variable that we're going to need to teach you, and you're going to need to learn. So the repairs have a lot to do with the ARV you chose. If you are looking at properties that have ARVs between 110 and 160, and you are looking more towards the 110, well, that's probably a lot less repairs than the ones on the street that are 160. It's just common sense, guys.
So, and this is, it takes a little bit of time to learn this. But you do, when you're running comps, you want to try to pull up and look at pictures of the property, how it's sold. So a 110 to a 160 here in St. Louis, that might be an area where
you could have that on the same street for sure, but you're going to have two totally different types of houses.
That's my point. Yeah. So that might be an area where you're going to see granite versus just a regular
Home Depot
hoods or whatever countertop,
right.
A cheap laminate countertop. That might be that price point. It might be the difference between, having a rehabbed house and not a rehabbed house, meaning it's in nice shape, but it's got, some 5-year-old appliances. It's all black appliances, and, the cabinets they're in good shape, but not new, versus having someone who went and rehabbed it. So again, you have to look at some of the pictures and kind of figure out what's going on in those houses to generate that sale price or that value. So, yeah.
Yep.
That was all I had to add on that.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah,
so the repairs can vary depending on the ARV you chose. So it's always a good idea to kind of do your ARV and your repairs at the same time. And again, when you're running your comps, look at the high-end homes and those price points. Look at the mediocre. Like maybe they were rehabbed recently, so they're nice, but they didn't go all out. And you're going to find those price points. So when you're determining what you think yours is going to be worth in the end, also keep in mind that the cost to fix those to those different price points is going to be different. That's it. Keep it simple. So when you are determining your repairs, it's going to have to do with how nice you envision it to be, and you're going to have to estimate that. Now, there's a couple ways that Mike and I
just dirty rule of thumb,
like to estimate
off
them.
the cuff, easy way to do it is based on your square foot, is what I'm going to say. So we take for maybe a low-end rental rehab, we'd say maybe it's going to cost us $15 per square foot, right? So if we got a 1,000 square foot house, say $15 per square foot to rehab it, that's going to be a $15,000 repair budget. And again, that is low. That is we've done this over 100 times in the Brrrr method, where we buy, rehab, rent, refinance, etc. And $15,000 is pretty close to our average that we spend on properties. So, I mean, that's a pretty good idea
for a rent-ready
property.
For a rent-ready, guys.
But that is a very cost-effective rehab too. We are pretty good, or we like to think we're pretty good at saving money and cutting corners, but still getting a pretty high-quality product when we're finished with it.
Yep.
So that's the square foot multiplier, and that's 15 for a rent-ready. This can go up for a retail ready to $25 a square foot for, kind of a mid-grade rehab, $25 to $40 a square foot. For a high-end rehab, you could spend $60 to $75, $80 a square foot.
That's right.
For gutting a property down to the studs, if it needs a full rehab, you might even spend upwards of $100 a square foot. I mean, if you're gutting it to the studs, high-end,
gutting it down, it could be, that's high.
That's
it could be,
high.
though.
That's real high.
It could easily be that, though. I mean, I basically did that on my own house.
There you
for
go.
example. So, but yeah, I mean, typically we're looking anywhere from 15 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really, really accurate range. Is it ever less than 15? In very rare circumstances. If it needs paint and carpet, maybe 10 a foot.
Yeah, but I mean, even that, guys.
There's always going to be something you're going to have to do. So, either way, though, the first and easiest way, I'd say not easiest, but most accurate, would be the square foot multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
So you take the square footage of the property and you multiply it by 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 45, 50, whatever it is. And you can determine that with experience and or by getting somebody that knows what they're doing to come out and give you a bid. Okay? So that's the first way, the square footage. The second way is the rule of fives. And it's not as accurate, but it's easier, right? So it depends on what you're going for. But if you're just trying to get a quick estimate from the hip, and you're okay if it's $5,000 off, but you want to know, hey, is this property going to be 15 grand or 50? This is a great approach. So everything in that property that needs to be fixed, that's big, a big item, is $5,000. And if it's a really big item, then double it. It's 10 grand. So a roof, depending on the size of the house, is it a 1,000 square foot house or a 2,000 square foot house? $5,000 or 10 grand for the roof. Does it need a kitchen? Minimum of $5,000 if it's very small. If it's a big house, it's going to be a $10,000 kitchen. Bathroom, $5,000. The whole house needs flooring, $5,000. Does the whole house need paint? $5,000. Okay? Typically, I'll include my lighting fixtures with my paint, because paint isn't going to cost you that much.
Well, and like we said, so you're figuring maybe a little high on that, but guess what? You're probably a little low
on the kitchen.
$5,000 for exactly,
or the roof,
for a bathroom or a roof.
Right.
So again, it works out. So $5,000, $5,000, $5,000. It's an easy way when you're walking through a house, especially, to come up with those numbers. So no, it's great, and yeah, it ends up being a pretty good rule of thumb.
So we call that the rule of five.
Mm-hmm.
5 for small items, 10 for large. So again, a kitchen. It could be 5, it could be 10. Is it big? Is it small? That's going to be your difference in materials and labor if it's twice the size. So the rule of fives is just a great way to walk through a house and just say, hey, we need windows. That's going to, windows in a roof, that's $5,000. We need a bathroom, that's $5,000. We have a big kitchen, that's going to be 10. So now we're at 20. We got to do paint and light fixtures, that's 5, and we need flooring. That's another 5. So we're at 30, $35,000. That's our estimate. Now, we're going to be more accurate doing a square footage approach, but if I'm just trying to determine, hey, does this place need 15 or 50 off the hip to get an idea, the rule of fives is a great way, because you can also talk to the seller on the phone or via text or whatever. You don't have to go there, or look at photos to determine the rule of fives. How many fives are needed? Is there a third approach that we teach, Mike? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I feel like that's basically the simplest way.
I mean, we've also got cost spreadsheets available where we kind of say, okay, this is what this costs, this is what this, and you can go through line by line.
That's the third approach,
and that's probably the most accurate.
And that's a repair estimate sheet that we provide in our course.
That one, again, it's very time consuming, and quite frankly, for a newer wholesaler or newer investor, it's probably not quite worth the time, because well, I guess the other third way or the fourth way is to get someone else's opinion, which is bring in a rehabber.
Get a bid.
Who might be your
get a
buyer.
Quote.
Exactly. Get a quote.
Call a rehab company, a construction company that does this type of work, or a handyman or whatever it is. Have them come out and give you an estimate. Get a bid. Usually they're free, but if you abuse that power and you have somebody go give you 15 estimates, they're going to probably stop giving estimates for free and charge. But even if you have to pay somebody $100 to have them come out to help you with that number, that's okay. You want to get these numbers right. So the two things that you really can't screw up is your ARV and your repairs. Because if you do screw up either one of those, the equation's off. So you want to be as close to the ARV as you possibly can get. And that's a guess. We get it. But you can get skilled at guessing very close, right? As well as the repairs. If your ARV's off 20 grand and your repairs are off 20 grand, that could be the difference of a $50,000 offer or more. 60, 70, 80, because you're multiplying that ARV by 1%. All right? So, to recap, MAO, maximum allowable offer, equals your after repair value, your ARV, multiplied by 70%, your discount rate, which has a little bit of a sliding scale based upon basically just the neighborhood or the part of town. Then you subtract out your repairs. And then last but not least, your wholesale fee. So the wholesale fee equation is a whole different equation. Same equation, just you take out the wholesale fee as well. But the reason that I want to pause for a quick second is this MAO formula is what most investors are looking to buy at. So without the wholesale fee. So if you're able to go get a deal under contract and you're either at or below your maximum allowable offer, assuming your ARV is correct, and you multiply it by 70% and you subtracted out your repairs, that's basically what Mike and I would be willing to pay for a rental or a flip in our area all day long. But if you're wanting to wholesale it, you got to then take off even more money because you have to be able to sell it to me, right? So ideally, you're going to take off another $10,000 or $15,000, maybe less, maybe more, off of that number, which makes your maximum allowable offer go down even more. Okay? So investors, landlords, rehabbers, we're willing to pay ARV times 70% minus repairs. But as a wholesaler, you have to add that additional fee, which you're going to subtract off of it to get your MAO. And that could be 5, 10, or 15 grand. So that's the explanation. I'm going to pass it off to Mike. Mike, once we determine our ARV, we multiply it by our discount rate. Mm-hmm. We subtract our repairs, and we subtract our wholesale fee. We are left with an MAO.
Perfect.
So now what?
So now we know the maximum.
That's the key word there.
That we can offer the seller. So let's just say that that number comes out to, you haven't given any examples, right?
Nope.
Let's just say that our maximum, that number comes out to $100,000. That would be the most that we could offer and still wholesale that property for our profit, for our wholesale fee. So we would not want to start there. We do not want to start offering $100,000. We have to come off of that number with our offer. We would probably want to go down to I would say maybe another $10,000,
85, 90. Yeah.
I mean, $85,000 to $90,000. You're going to want to come back off of that number again, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for a couple reasons. One, this gives you some buffer room in your repair estimates.
I love that.
If you're new in this, you probably aren't to the dollar on your rehab numbers yet. So this is going to help you with that. It's going to give you a little bit of extra negotiation room when you're selling your wholesale deal.
Let's say you estimated at 30, but it's 36, and you only have a $5,000 wholesale fee involved. You're going to be upside down in that. So exactly. I love that. So add a wholesale fee, and it gives you padding if you were to screw up the numbers elsewhere. Love it.
You also, when you're underneath your maximum allowable offer, that gives you some room to go back and negotiate with the seller.
Right.
Because that seller probably isn't going to like that offer either.
Nope.
And everyone wants to negotiate, right? So
Everybody
everybody wants
does.
to say, I really wanted 100. You said 90. Can you do 95? Or something like that. Everybody wants to kind of meet in the middle and do stuff like that. So it always makes sense to come in lower than what you really can do, just so you can come up a little bit.
Absolutely.
And again,
even if that coming up is only $1,000 or $2,000, nobody likes dealing with people that aren't willing to budge.
Your objective here, again, and we talk about this as a totally separate topic, but you're trying to make a friend to begin with.
Yeah.
And you want to be, you just want to be a decent person too.
Right.
Like you're trying to help this person out. So again, you want to be able to play ball. You don't want to.
You're already buying at a massive discount. Don't worry about a couple grand. But it's good to not make your max offer. And here's from the get-go, here's why. Because then you don't have any wiggle room to negotiate in the event that you're really close. You came in guns blazing with your best offer first. That's a terrible idea. You want to save that best offer because if you have to come up any, you now have wiggle room, right? That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's maximum allowable offer. That's basically how we analyze deals. Dave, you have anything else you want to add on the topic, or let's go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah, that's about it, guys. I mean, again, start with the end in mind, the after repair value. So you're looking at this house that you're driving for dollars, and it's got gutters falling off, and it looks like it could be a great home again, but it needs work. Don't look at the current condition. Look at what it would be worth fixed up, and then work your way backwards. So determine what it would be worth by running comps, like, near, as similar as possible, and most recent as possible, okay? To find your ARV. And then, depending on what ARV you chose, that's going to give you a level of repairs, a level of high grade, low grade, or medium grade. Figure out what that grade is, and then multiply that grade times your cost per foot, and now you have your variables. So take your ARV, multiply it by your discount rate, default it at 70% if you're new. Subtract out your repairs, and then add a wholesale fee in there as well if you're new. And that's your MAO, and then discount that MAO a little bit. You may not have to come off that MAO 20% if it's a low number, but don't offer that number. No, that is the max you can pay in 3 or 6 or 12 months from now if it takes that long for them to be willing to work with you. So start low. You don't have to go way low, but I'd say a minimum of $3,000 to $5,000 less, minimum. We usually come in anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 below that, and it gives us more wiggle room to come up because they typically don't like your offer to begin with. And that's about it.
It's Analyzing Deals, guys. Thanks.
Signing off. Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, please visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support, and remember, you make your money when you buy, and you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.